Hello everybody and welcome to our now annual Christmas tradition that is the What's the Story Christmas Special with Paul Howard and Gary Mackle. Gentlemen,
hello.
There he is.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. We were supposed to be doing this in person, but it fell apart at the seams at the last minute. So
shockingly fell apart.
We're
how we got the shits.
How he let us down again.
Well, I think teenagers get the shits. Adults get gastric flu.
Yeah,
right? But I've had both, and they're broadly similar, right? And so yeah, we were supposed to do it in Avoca tonight, and I had dinner plans and everything for you, and I took to the bed on Saturday, and I swear to God, I only ever felt this unwell once in my life, right? And that was, I was at the Sydney Olympics, and because it was an Olympics and because it was kind of that part of the world, right? Every disease, flu, cold, virus that was going in the world was brought to Sydney. It was an Olympics of germs, and whatever I picked up, I was sitting at a bus stop on a bench one day, right, in a place called Randwick, and Ryle Nugent walked by and he looked at me and he just said, "Do you want me to get you an ambulance?" Right? That's how sick I looked, right? And I was anyway. I was green, like he said, "Paul, you're green. You're literally green." And I went back, and I was 4 days in bed. Then I was just so flipping sick, like. And this I felt the same way again this time. I didn't eat for 4 days. I just felt absolutely manky. So today's the first day I'm back up and walking around and eating and all the rest. I feel really weak, but
no brown rain coming out your hole.
No. The old Daihoria High Hay has come to an end, thankfully.
Have you?
But what's so funny? Do you know what I rediscovered, right, when I was going through this, right? I was in Avoca on my own, like Mary was in Dublin because I didn't want to give it to her, like,
She fucked you.
Essentially, yeah. Well, the way, like, we're all just mad into isolating now. As soon as you get anything, you better isolate. I better go to a hotel. I sneezed. I better check into juries. Anyway, I was down there, and as you mentioned, the brown rain, and it wasn't the brown rain. I was on my own one day, and I've been on my own for about 3 days, and I was really lonely and everything, and I farted, and it was just a really, really long fart, right? The 14-year-old inside me just burst out laughing. Right? I must have laughed for about 20 seconds. Now, a little bit, it was probably me going mad in the house on my own, but you can still laugh at a fart for a good 20 seconds at the age of almost 52. It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's all right.
I don't understand people who don't, like, everybody has to fart. So
yeah.
if you're not laughing at them, you're actually missing out, because you're going to fart anyway. You might as well enjoy it.
Like, what kind of a man, right, would go into a public toilet, and then they're standing at the trough, right? And then they unzipping all right, and then they start peeing. And as soon as they start peeing, they let one off, right? Because often the two kind of reactions go hand in hand, don't they? Like,
it's like a valve.
A fart comes baked into the batter, right? And I just don't understand a man who can go at the urinal and then not comment on it, right? Not throw it a joke, like, what, I'll name that tune in two, or so, like, some kind of gag to go along with that. It's just, it's a setup, and if there's no punchline, I'm always so disappointed. I just look sideways at men at troughs all the time and go, "What are you doing? Why are you wasting that?"
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. It's I hope people are listening to this as they enjoy their Christmas dinner, by the way. It's a great opening.
But do you remember in school, if you're in the library, Miss Delaney, if she caught you farting, she'd go mad. She'd throw you out of the library and all.
There was something about the chairs in school that they amplified.
Yeah.
Flatulence.
Like, they had that curve at the back.
Yeah,
So the sound just done a big ramp, like it's like going up like a skateboard going up a ramp.
just made it so much funnier. Like,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She's
Miss
going mad.
Delaney, do you remember the wooden Hail Mary she used to have on her desk?
You always used to hide it, didn't you?
Yeah, when she went in to look for a book, I'd move the Mary.
Like the elf on the shelf.
Yeah. She stung me one day. It was fucking murder. But when you're pissing and you need to fart and you're out of your line, and it has happened to me a few times. If there is somebody there, you just go, oh. Oh.
Yeah. I used to have this one where I go, if I did it, I just turn to the person beside me and go, must be something you ate. So if you kind of push it off on them.
Paul, did you not get to bring Humphrey to Avoca with you for recovery?
Yeah, Humphrey was with me. Yeah.
Grand.
Humphrey came down and he was great company, but he got very frustrated with the snow. He wanted to go out for walks and stuff like that, but
does he still want to go out for walks at this age?
Not walks. He doesn't. He's 12 now, and he's only got little basset hound legs, so he can't do long walks anymore. So what he does is he just potters. I don't even put the lead on him anymore. He just walks around, sniffs lampposts just to check they all smell of piss, and then
he goes for a nosy, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Just to see what's going on.
Yeah, dogs are mad, aren't they?
They're fucking great. Jesus, how could you not love dogs, lads?
Listen.
Can I ask a quick question? Because it's killing me the last couple of days. Did the machine call, Gary?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, he called. I thought that was camera footage. I have a camera on the front door.
Did he come? Did he come back when you were there?
No, he just posted me in another book.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Have you bought the Watchtower yet, Gary?
Pardon?
Have you invested in the Watchtower yet?
No. I'm hoping he drops in a few bob for Christmas.
Oh, lovely.
But,
for people who don't know, we should just clarify that the machine is a friend of yours who calls to the house every so often.
Yeah, he's a Jehovah's Witness. He's calling to me the last 5 years, and he thinks my name is Cecil.
And he thinks
why does he think this, Gary?
Pardon?
Why does he think this, Gary?
I told him my name was Cecil John Joe Restrictor.
Cecil John Joe Restrictor. And then Gary keeps calling him machine, and he's never corrected Gary once.
No, never. And one letter he wrote me, his name is Eric, and he wrote his name at the end of the letter as if to say, this is my name, but I kept calling him machine. But it's mad. Everybody knows machine. Like, all different groups are in and all. Everyone always asks, how's machine? But his wife lost her eyesight there just before COVID, and now it's back.
That's the miracle of Jehovah.
Yeah.
Something in it.
That's what happens when you invest in a Watchtower.
So the last time I was talking to him, I told him I'm moving back to Australia in the new year. And I told him I'm renting out the house. So he said, geez, be careful who you let in. He was dying to get a bit racial with it, but he didn't. But
my favorite moment ever, Gary, of you with him is when you said to him, I used to live over in Australia, and he said something like, oh, I've a sister-in-law or something in Australia, and he said, Victoria, is that in Australia? And you said, could be.
He was testing me, I think. Wily old fox. But there was a few months ago he kept calling, and it was always when I was in work and Gemma was here. And she said, I'm telling you now, you better draw a line under him calling here. I'm fucking sick of it. I just said, tell him I'm fucking dead or something. Get a few bob out of him.
You better draw a line.
Gary, we must also wish you a very happy birthday as we're recording. Well, we're recording this just before you enter a new decade. So
yeah, so I'm actually, like, David Brent was 39 in the office, and I'm 39 now, so I'm still in my 30s. Still in my 30s. But yeah, no, I'm 40 now tomorrow.
Have you?
Happy birthday!
All the wrinkles on my forehead, like Gordon Ramsay. But 40 going on 16, still a gobshite, still messing.
Have you any great life lessons in your accumulated time on this planet, Gary?
Yeah, do you know something I did learn? You don't have to have an opinion on everything.
That's true. Yeah.
A la Gary Neville.
That's a fair point. Gary Merrigan could probably learn from that as well. I know he stayed silent. Fair enough.
What are you drinking, Howie? Is that wine?
Yeah, just Ribena. Just very good for the stomach now coming back after this gastric thing.
It's not the Diego Maradona wine, Howie, is it?
No, that was I opened that and it was fizzy. I bought this bottle of Diego Maradona wine. Mary and I were in Buenos Aires in 2005, right? So it's a long time ago, and I bought this bottle, and it was going to be like a collector's item. I said I'll open it when, like Gary there, I turned 40. And then I totally forgot to open on my 40th. And I think it was about 48 or something. I think it was the start of COVID or something I might have opened.
Yeah, it was. It was the start of COVID. You opened it, yeah.
And I cracked it open, and Jesus, it was. I knew it had gone like when it fizzed up over the top. Like it was absolutely vile. Like proper. Like I could have cleaned copper with it. It was absolutely disgusting.
I have a question for Paul Howard, please, because if I don't ask it, I'll forget and I'll fucking go mad.
The floor is yours, Gary. Go ahead.
The term hard chaw,
yeah,
right, which is spelled hard, H-A-R-D, and C-H-A-W. I always thought it was hard shaw, S-H-A-W, but it's not. Where did that term come from?
I've absolutely no idea. I've heard it for so long. I just sort of take it for granted as a thing, you know, like somebody a courier or somebody's as wide as a gate or something. I've always taken it as a Dublin expression. I could probably Google it right now, and there's a dictionary of Hiberno English just explains the origins of all these words. And there was a professor in UCD called Terry Dole, and he died about 2 years ago. He's an amazing man, and he could tell you the etymology of every word, of every bit of slang in art. Like I thought something like we used to hear from the time we were kids, we'd hear the word scanger all the time. You know, you call each other a scanger, right? And Terry was the one who told me scanger is actually a Jamaican word for an untrustworthy or dissolute person. They were called a skanker, S-K-A-N-K-E-R. And Dublin scanger came directly from the Caribbean skanker.
Wow.
And then Scoby came from in medieval times, people who hung around the dump. They would kind of like dig with their hands looking for food and stuff like that. And to dig with your hands was called to scobe. It was the verb, it was to scobe with your hands. And they became scobes. And then in the kind of Dublin reimagination of the word, scobies. So kind of they all have I'm going to Google it while I'm talking to you because I'm kind of curious about it now as well.
I thought you wouldn't know off the top of your head.
I love etymology. I think like where these things come from is very fascinating, you know. I know a lot of, especially the Hiberno English stuff. A lot of the stuff, like it's always rooted in Latin or whatever. But the Hiberno English and how that evolves is brilliant. Like,
but Danny, we spoke to years ago now. We spoke to Frankie Gaffney.
We did
about Hiberno English, and he's very, very knowledgeable about the origins of certain words, and he kind of always tries to reintroduce them back in society.
That's the Ulysses lad, is it? Frankie Gaffney.
He loves James Joyce.
He loves Joyce, yeah. Yeah, the one I always love is that bollocks has its origins in a name for a priest.
Really?
Yeah.
Was there a Father Bollocks in Loughlinstown before Father Hastings?
Is that true, Danny? Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I'll find the thing and I'll send it to you after. But yeah, 100%.
Here it is, lads. All right. Hard chaw. The chaw was the ancient word for chew. So hard chaw meant something that was hard to chew.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you describe someone as a hard chaw, you were basically saying they were difficult to digest, I suppose, or hard to chew. Tough.
There you go. See?
Look, Gary, what made you ask the question? It's in the book, is it?
It's in the Rodfather, and when I read it, I thought, fucking hell, you know, because you hear these terms all your life, you don't really know how they're spelled, and you don't really know their origin. So I thought, who better to ask than the author?
Look, lads, there's not many podcasts out there that in the opening 10 minutes of an episode will go from brown rain to farts at urinals to etymology. That's all I'll say.
Do you know who's a big fan of etymology? I didn't know until I met him, right? Barry McGuigan. It's his
Really?
hobby.
No way.
Yeah, he's obsessed with it. Like, you know, like if you use a word in Barry McGuigan's company, I said hubris to him once, and he went, "Oh, that's the Greek word," and he's able to explain the art. It's amazing. He has books and books of this stuff, you know. And I think at the time, this was about sort of 15 years ago. I met him the last time, and he said he used to try and learn 10 new words a day and their origins. That was an amazing thing, you know.
Wow, that's brilliant.
And he said,
sorry, go on, Paul. Go on.
but he said that, like, when he was traveling the world, he said he was meeting a lot of kind of educated men and, you know, writers and, you know, men of letters who kind of want to hang out with him. And he said he felt really intellectually inferior being around them because he just didn't have the vocabulary that they had. And so he kind of made it his business to start learning new words. And then as he started learning the words, he said, where's that come from? Why is that word? Because he's got a very questing mind. So he'd want to know, but why is that word? What, like Gary there saying, why hard chaw? But why is it a hard chaw? Like, you know, and I thought it was really interesting, you know.
It is very interesting.
I have a book downstairs. I haven't started it yet because there's been lots of other books that I wanted to read ahead of it, such as Roddy the Rodfather. But Susie Dent, you know, her from Countdown 8 of 10 Cats or whatever. She's a book called Word Perfect. And it's like a word or a phrase. There's 365 of them, one for every day of the year. It's a great book to leave in the jacks, I think. Right? Now, Paul, you probably would have cleared it in 2 sittings recently.
Especially this week.
Well, everyone, just it's 365. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that now because, like that, I just love how little things evolve and they take on new meanings. So, yeah. Barry McGuigan sounds like an interesting chap now after this. A lot more interesting than he was 5 minutes ago.
Barry, like, you know, Barry was a hero of mine growing up. Lads, you missed it, you know, you weren't there for Barry McGuigan. Like, he was just, what a legend, like, you know.
He was very brave there recently in the BBC documentary about the Kinnans. He didn't give
about the Kinnans, and he talks about the way he talks about his daughter who died as well, you know, publicly. He's an extraordinary man. Like, if you ever spent any time in his company, you kind of get it straight away. Like, he's this very special kind of
Would you
character.
say his life is in danger, Paul?
I don't think so. No.
No. Jesus, no.
I think you know, I think the Kinnans have got bigger problems on their mind than Barry McGuigan.
Yeah.
Slagging them off, you know, or criticizing them. I mean, I wouldn't think so at all. No. I mean, what does it, you know, what does it serve going after Barry McGuigan? They're out of boxing now anyway, aren't they? Or, you know, they certainly are for the moment. And even if they're still hovering in the background, they're not able to make money from boxing, and they're not able to launder money through boxing. So that's a very good thing, you know. But the damage that they did to boxing, it's going to take a long, long time to get back from that. Boxing in Ireland, you know, but, you know, with the Regency shooting and all that kind of thing. I mean, a guy used to put on shows told me in Ireland, there's no boxing in Ireland really anymore since that, you know, not really. And a fellow I know who used to put on shows told me it used to cost €1,500 to insure a show. And after the Regency shooting, it cost €15,000 to insure a show.
Jesus Christ.
So
can't get insurance.
Killed the sport, completely killed it for everybody, you know. And that's why it's sad to see boxers. I know they want to make a few bob, but it was sad to see boxers then running to the Kinnans, running to MTK, and it's just a kind of sad reflection on the way the sport is. But I used to be mad into it, but I've no interest in it anymore at all.
Really? What made you not have any interest? Was there anything specific that turned you off?
A couple of deaths in the night, not deaths, the 2 near-death experience, Michael Watson in particular, and then Gerald McClellan. The Gerald McClellan Nigel Benn fight is just the most barbaric thing I ever seen in my life. I covered boxing for years for the papers, and I was always able to kind of park my slight squeamishness I had about it just by saying, look, it's a sport. It's 2 men who want to be in there. And but that fight in particular, where two men just looked like they were actively trying to kill each other in the ring. It was just so brutal. Like, and for one of them to leave the ring, you know, like blind and everything, like it was just, you know, severely brain damaged. And that was like whatever 4 years after the Michael Watson thing. I kind of had my fill of it but actually, to be honest, around the time I covered the Steve Collins and Nigel Benn, or Steve Collins and Chris Eubank fight in '95, and I was writing Steve's book at that point, and I covered that fight, and that was a few weeks after the McClellan one, and I kind of lost my appetite for it then, you know. And after that, I didn't really enjoy it as much. You know, I still had to cover it, but I'd be around gyms and I'd be around fights, and I just found it a bit distasteful. And then, to be honest, it got a bit boring as well for a few years. You know, there was fewer and fewer characters in it.
There was a bit of a lull for a while, wasn't there?
There was, yeah. I mean, I can watch all those old fights on. I was here one Saturday afternoon a few weeks ago, and they showed all of the old fights between like Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and Leonard, and over the period of about maybe 10 years, they all fought each other. Some of them fought each other a couple of times, and those fights, every single one of those fights, except maybe the last Duran Leonard fight, which was a bit of a bore, but all other fights in that series were classics, absolute toe-to-toe classics. Some went 1 round, some went 15 rounds, but you know, they were just brilliant. It was just a golden era for boxing, and I still love watching those, but just a lot of the current fights, you know, fighters don't get me excited. Kelly Harrington does. Like Kelly Harrington, when she fought for the Olympic medal, I was up at 4 a.m, right? And just with nerves, right? I was pacing, I was walking around the apartment, and Mary said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm just nervous with the fight, you know." And she said, "You're not fighting. Just get back to bed, you fucking idiot."
You're a mad bastard.
So I said, "We can't settle. I just can't get settled, you know." And it was here, I made about 7 cups of tea, and then I settled down. And I watched the fight. She won. It was great and everything, you know. But anyway, I met her a few weeks ago at the Irish Book Awards, right? And I was chatting to her, and I just said to her, "Oh, you just want to." It's brilliant to be able to say this to someone, you know. I just want to tell you, you gave me so much pleasure, you know, that sort of week, 10-day period in my life. Like, you know, I just out of hospital after getting my gallbladder out and everything. I was dying sick and everything. And I said, "You gave me so much flipping joy that summer." And I said, "But I have to tell you, I was up at 4 a.m, pacing the house. I was like a madman." She said, "Jesus, I was fighting. I got up at 6:30.
That's hilarious.
It's like, would you, in terms of like watching it now, Paul, like any of the, and I'm, you know, there's not many big fights in boxing, I'd say, but like you wouldn't do the whole this big fight in Vegas. Would you bother 3 o'clock in the morning job or anything on it?
No. I haven't done that. I haven't done that for years. You know, I did it for
Tyson Holyfield, is it?
I did it for Tyson Holyfield. I did it for Lennox Lewis and was it Lewis and Tyson maybe? I watched all those fights when the heavyweight division was still quite interesting. I did it for Ricky Hatton, when Ricky Hatton fought who did he fight?
Floyd Mayweather, was it?
And he fought Floyd Mayweather. That was the last, apart from Katie Taylor and Kelly Harrington, right?
Yeah.
The Floyd Mayweather Ricky Hatton fight was the last fight that actually got my adrenaline going. Like, you know, even though I knew
the build-up was excellent.
Oh, it was just brilliant. You know, it really was. But something like, you know, Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, Jesus, like that's just
right. Rather watch a documentary on Chernobyl than watch them two fucking pricks.
Yeah, which on that.
Did you watch that series, Gary? The Chernobyl series?
I watched the first 2, I think. Yeah, you told me about it.
The Sky was brilliant. I know it sounds weird to say something about Chernobyl is brilliant, but it was brilliant.
What were you going to say there, Gary?
I enjoyed Tyson Fury and Klitschko that time. I thought that was a good fight.
I find Tyson Fury very unlikable.
Ah, yeah, he's a fucking he's a clown. But just in terms of a spectacle, I thought it was interesting
Yeah, it was.
because he's so unorthodox. And
Yeah.
Klitschko is sort of tactician.
Mm.
What way was it going to go? Obviously, Tyson got the better of him. But no, I agree. It's just full of chancers, isn't it? Full of spoofers.
I think they're all too big, the heavyweights as well. You know, like I love watching Muhammad Ali. I love watching, Rocky Marciano. I love watching Jack Dempsey. I love watching Mike Tyson in his prime, Larry Holmes in his prime. Those guys were 14 stone. Like those guys weren't that much heavier than me, you know, and they were heavyweights. But these lads who are like 22 stone, 21 stone,
6'7",
6'7", they're just muscle man. Me and Gary are gym bunnies ourselves, like, you know, so we'd spend a lot of time kind of pumping iron around these guys, you know.
Yeah.
So we'd
be in that kind of domain, like,
well, we'd be moving in that space, that think space. But they're just to me, they're just sort of pumped up bodybuilders rather than boxers. Like Ali in his prime or Tyson in his prime would have wiped the floor with all of them.
Yeah.
You know,
you look at Tyson in his prime, even when he came on the scene, Jesus Christ, different gravy.
Yeah.
None of them are anything like him. They possibly wouldn't lay a glove on him. Lethal.
Paul, the boxing kind of has a connection to the Rodfather, I suppose, because obviously the Collins family and one thing and the other, and it comes up a bit in the book, but in a clunky segue to the Rodfather. Firstly, congratulations to yourself and Roddy.
Thank you.
It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant book, and not saying that to blow smoke, but it genuinely is one of the most enjoyable books I've read this year. Fucking laugh out loud, like proper laugh out loud moments in it. Mero waited for the audiobook because he can't read. But how have you?
I sent Mero all the good lines from it anyway.
Yeah, I was getting messages every Friday after he got home from Roddy's gaff with all the stories. There's something for me to read. I found it funny, Paul, and don't take offense to this, from the League of Ireland Twitter community. They were saying it belongs in the fiction section.
Yeah. Of course. Like Roddy has his take on how his relationship ended with all of the clubs, and it might not tally with everybody else's take.
I love that. It might not tally.
You know, like every club that ever got rid of Roddy, they said publicly why they got rid of him, you know, and it's nice to hear from the other point of view as well, isn't it? You know,
there's a lot of times where Roddy might have lost a job or whatever, but it's the same clutch of people come back from again. Now he does have multiple lives with a lot of these people.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
You know, it's a fascinating. I'm not a League of Ireland fan. Obviously, I knew who Roddy Collins was. The fucking book is outstanding. It's easy for me to say here and say book's outstanding and Paul's on the Zoom here, but it's absolutely brilliant. Like the story about the wallpaper. So there's there's a christening in the house, and Caroline wants this Laura Ashley wallpaper, which is extortionate money per roll, by the way.
Roll.
And 67% of the roll is waste. And Mick hangs the paper, Paul, doesn't he?
Yeah, Roddy's older brother, Mick.
Yeah, and he hangs it upside down. But like it's like you're in a chapter and it's leading you one way, but there'll be this little section of a story which happened in the middle, and you're pissing yourself laughing. And I tweeted how good the book was, and of course there's people, he's a spoofer, he's full of shit and all that. But that's irrelevant, because what we're hearing is Roddy's story as he sees it, and he's the only person. He's the only person who can tell you his story.
Yeah,
and obviously
as well, Gary. Like, you know, he's a teller of yarns, right? He's a classic after dinner speaker. Now you can go along and enjoy an after dinner speaker, or you can sit there with a notebook and fact check everything he said. Did that joke really happen? But that's not what it's about. Like, you know, it's about telling the story of a life. You know, you know. And thank you for your kind comments about the book, lads. I have to say, I want to do a director's cut with all the bits that we had to leave out, because there were just so many. There were just so many stories, and some of them we did. Some of them Roddy said, "Oh, put that in," and I'd be saying, "I don't know if that's for our audience," kind of thing, But there's one funny story that it was in, and then it was out, and then it was in, and then it was out, and it went back in, and then finally it went back out, right? And it's to my eternal regret that I left this out, right? But the story is this, right? Roddy's
was it libelous?
No, you're grand. So Roddy, if I named the firm involved, it probably would be. But anyway, so Roddy's mother-in-law, she left, she was in O'Devany Gardens, and the corporation were clearing out O'Devany Gardens because they wanted to knock it down and rebuild it. So she got a house. She got a lovely little house. Missed all her old friends. Sadly, they broke up a great little community there, but that's, they just said, well, time marches on. And she said, this lovely little house. And she decided she was going to get a carpet, brand new carpet. So she rang the well-known carpet showroom, and they came and they fitted, two lads came, they fitted the carpet, and she was delighted. She made them a bowl of stew and gave them £1 each, the two lads, and off they went, two young lads. And Roddy went to look at the carpet, and he said, they fucking robbed you. So she said, what do you mean? He said, look at the white lines on it. She said, oh, they said that they'd eventually go, right? Now what happened was they gave her a second's carpet, a rejected carpet. It was one that you're supposed to roll carpet. This would have been folded. So it had gone white at the folds. It had kind of faded at the folds. So they laid it out. Every kind of 2 feet, there was a big white line down it, So anyway, Roddy went down to the shop. He said, leave this to me. I'll go and have a word with them, So Caroline drives him down to the shop, and she pulls up outside and she said, no, Roddy, don't forget, we've got this dinner we're going to tonight. Like, don't, no trouble. Don't worry, Caroline, I'll sort this out. Don't you worry. Have a little word with the fella, So he goes in, and the manager is on the phone, and Roddy said, you're after selling my mother-in-law a Duff carpet. And the manager says, I'm on the phone. And Roddy said, but you're after taking all that money off I'm on the fucking phone. So Roddy takes the phone off him. Roddy said, I took the phone off him, bipped him over the head with it. That was that. So Caroline is outside, and she said, I'm sitting there for half an hour, and I'm thinking, where the hell is Roddy? And she's next thing, get a tap on the window, and there's a speed cop standing there, right? And he says, she winds down the window, and she says, yeah. He said, are you Roddy Collins' wife? I am, yeah. Listen, you better head to Store Street. That's where we're bringing your husband. So off they go. But Roddy said, I'm not leaving the shop. I'm not leaving the shop until I get my money back, So the guard said, well, you're going to have to leave with me. And Roddy said, well, you're going to need a bit of a team. So he called for reinforcements. Jesus. And they took him out anyway, eventually. But Roddy said, while they're waiting for the reinforcements, Roddy spent 20 minutes shouting, don't buy your carpet here. They will rob my mother-in-law. Poor old lady living on her own. They really did rob her, So anyway, they took him to Store Street. And the upshot was the guard kind of knew, I think he might have been from the inner city himself, and he knew they robbed her, So he was very sympathetic and just said to Roddy, look, what's your ideal outcome here? And he just said, my mother-in-law's money back. And he said, right, we'll get that for you. And that was it. They gave him the money back. He left the Garda station with the money in his hand. And he said, the carpet shop came the next day to wanting the carpet back, right? Even though we were going to give it to someone else. So Roddy said, I just ripped it up with my hands and threw it out into the rain. And it's a few crackers like that, brilliant, But that's Roddy.
What was it about him that Turlough O'Connor would always ring him for jobs, or for Turlough must have saw something.
Yeah, because Turlough didn't suffer fools, I mean, Turlough bought him 4 times for different clubs, and he put him in the Bows job. And then later on, he put him in the Athlone Town job, So Turlough clearly rated him. And I met Turlough at the night of the launch, which was like that was a moment for me because Turlock O'Connor's been one of my heroes of my life, and I never met him, never met the man. Like, you know, he's incredible, man. And he just thought, he just rated him. He just said, this is a leader of men. That's what it was. I think he just saw he's a trier, he's got charisma, and he's a leader of men. And you don't get a lot of that in dressing rooms, you know?
Yeah.
The mad thing is when somebody at Bangor first said to Roddy, you know, the coach is gone, will you take training tonight? It hadn't occurred to Roddy that he was a leader of men. It hadn't occurred to him that he might be managerial material. And Turlock said, of course, you walk into a room, Roddy walks into a pub, it doesn't matter who's in the pub, within 5 minutes, he's standing in the middle and everybody's standing around him, listening to him, right? So that kind of charisma is it's really, really rare, you know?
Yeah.
Rare
it's like that with Pajo and his third contract at Rovers under Michael O'Neill. Michael O'Neill pretty much said to him, like, I won't be playing you that much. I'll be picking and choosing when I play you, but I need you for the dressing room. Like, you know, I need you for morale and stuff like that. So it's mad how, like, good managers who went, like Roddy won a double with Bowes, Michael O'Neill won 2 leagues in a row, group stages of Europe. Like, they build their dressing rooms with characters, you know that way?
Yeah, absolutely. And what stands out in the book as well is Roddy really puts a value on people that he trusts, particularly in football teams.
Yeah.
And there's a story where a fella walks into the dressing room and Roddy looks at him and says, "You're going to get me 20 goals this season." And your man was like, "All right, yeah." Turned out your man was a goalkeeper. Roddy liked the look of him. But it was a real throwback to me, to the Celtic Tiger, because he was arriving on building sites in his Louis Copeland gear, pricing jobs, and you know, 30 lads working for you. And like I remember painters who, you know, they were just normal lads, and in the flick of a finger they'd 50 lads working for them. And they've investment properties in Spain, and they've houses in Bulgaria, and it was a throwback, and it was just a brilliant book. But I actually felt there's another book in there.
Yeah. Gary, there's a book on the writing of the book, right? which I'm still. There's a great story. Me and Roddy went over to England, right, a few months ago. This is almost when the book is finished. I'm sorry if I've told you this before, but your listeners won't have heard it. Roddy was offered a job with a club called Chesham United, and Chesham is where Roddy Jr. plays. That's where he's their midfield general. They're about maybe 3 leagues below conference level. They're way down, not way down, but they're a decent club. But this rich guy's bought the club, and he's building them a new stadium, 5,000 seater on the other side of town, bit kind of like Tolka Park or something like that, a small Tolka Park. And anyway, his plan is in 5 years they're going to be in the conference, and in 10 years they're going to be in the football league. So it's kind of a nice dream. It's not looking for too much too soon. It's a kind of slow thing. But he wants Roddy to Roddy to manage the team, but he also wanted him to build the stadium, right? And I just thought, this is brilliant. This is such a great story, right? You want him to get a contractor to build a stadium, and anyway, so I said, Roddy, this would be brilliant. Like, this is a great ending for the book. He said, but it's not going to happen. I said, but even if it doesn't happen, it's a great ending for the book that you've been offered this. So he said, why don't we go? I said, why don't we go over and meet them? So he said, yeah, no problem. So we booked 2 Ryanair flights to Luton. This is back in May. 2 Ryanair flights to Luton. And we arrive, and we're standing at Luton Airport. We're waiting for this limo to come and pick us up, right? Your man, the owner of the club, sending this limo. And suddenly I'm aware of this commotion behind me, shouting. Rah, 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 rah. Turn around, and there's this Russian fella. I could be maligning the Russian people here. He was certainly Eastern European, but because of the invasion of Ukraine, we'll say he was Russian, right? It's perfectly okay to say. Anyway, this fella, right? He was wearing a vest. I'm not inventing this. He had a white vest on, right? That's all he was wearing, a white vest. He had muscles like fucking grapefruits, like big guy, you know, and he was in a rage. He was absolutely spitting nails at his wife, right? And his vein in his forehead throbbing, his eyes were out in stalks, his flipping neck muscles were strained. He was going to hit this woman, like, you know, and his mother was pulling him back, shouting at him, and the wife wasn't remotely scared of him, right? She's just looking at him. She's looking him up and down, saying stuff. She's probably questioning his manhood and all sorts of stuff, you know. It's just whatever she's saying to him, it's making him angry and angry and angry. But what Roddy couldn't get over was a little kid hiding behind his mother's legs. Like, that really upset Roddy, a little 5-year-old kid, you know. So the next thing, I just hear Roddy out of the corner of his mouth says to me, "Look lively here, Paul." I said, "What?" He said, "Look lively here." I said, "What do you mean look lively?" He says, "I think we're going to have to take this lad down." Right. The thing is, right, such a macho man, right? He's flipping serious. Like, he's serious. He said, "We're going to take this lad down." I said, "Roddy, I don't know what you see when you look at me, right? But I am not a fighting man, you know." Gary, in fairness, I'd only been in the gym in Arklow about 3 months at that stage. I wasn't taking up the trees I am now.
You hadn't started on the rides.
So I said, "Roddy, I said, if you want me to satirize him, I could write a piece about him for Saturday's Irish Times. Like, I'd absolutely rip him apart, like in the Times." He said, "No, we'll take him down." I said, "Roddy," like, he said, "Don't worry about it. I've thought it through." He says, you kick out his knee and I'll take him down with a punch."
What the fuck?
Kick out his knee. He thought it through. He saw it. He actually saw how it was going to happen in real time, like, you know.
So what happened?
Well, luckily his mother dragged him off, this fella off, you know. And of course I got really brave then. I was shouting at your man, "Yeah, lucky she pulled you away. You were about to get it. You were about to get the old Howard Collins 1-2.
And the limo pick us up.
Oh, did, yeah. I said to you, man, drive.
And then what happened when you met the owners of the club and all?
I mean, they were lovely, you know, but they were really, really nice, you know, and they took us out to the ground and they showed us the ground and they showed us the site where the new stadium is going to go, you know, and I think
is Roddy not interested?
He is interested, yeah, but he's waiting for the right offer. You see, Roddy thought his managerial career was over, and partly with the book and all the kind of focus he's getting again, and just the process of remembering how good he was at the start. Like, I know, Mero, you as a Rovers fan would have certain views about how he was later on, but at the start, like, if you think his first managerial job at Bangor helped them avoid relegation, you know, went to Bows, helped them avoid relegation first season. Second season, they won a cup, or got to a cup final, and finished second, I think, second or third.
Second, yeah, it was second, I think, yeah.
And then third season, won the double, you know, went to Carlisle United, took them from the bottom of the table to 16th. They would have been top half if Michael Knighton hadn't sacked him with 3 games to go after having a row with him, you know. So that's a pretty upward trajectory, you know, that he was on there, you know. And I think remembering all that stuff, he's kind of starting to believe again. He's looking at Claudio Ranieri still managing at 72, and you know, and he said, "Yeah, I'm going to go back." So he wants to go to China. That's where he really wants to go. Like, you know.
Paul, am I right in saying he was actually just before COVID? He was asked to go to China.
Yeah. So they have this program where they bring Western coaches over to China, and they bring them to university. They assess them. You learn Mandarin, and while you're learning Mandarin for a year, they assess your level, and then at the end of the year they say Chinese second division, Chinese League of Ireland, you know, Chinese Leinster Senior League, whatever the level their version is, you get sent there. And he was mad up for it. And of course, Caroline says to Caroline, "Listen, you know, how would you fancy moving to China?" "Absolutely," she says. You know, best wife in the world.
She's a saint, that woman, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Ah, come here. Saint's not the word. But sure, he'd turn up and say, we're heading such and such in the morning. and off they'd go. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, you wouldn't get that now.
But like he in terms of being hired again for a manager, I can't see that happening. Like he
Would you
had
fuck
terrible
off, Mero, for God's
he,
sake?
he had
Mary, so
terrible.
you need to get out of the League of Ireland, right? Because
No, but why wouldn't he get a job in the league, in our league now?
Why would he?
Why wouldn't he wouldn't get a job in our league now?
No, but
course
he
he
wouldn't
would.
want to. He wouldn't want a job in your league now. It's too small for him. Like, you know.
Where else is he going to get a job?
Well, he was interviewed a few weeks ago for a League Two manager's job and got down to the last two.
No way.
Was offered the assistant manager's job as a number two to the man they gave the job to, and he said no. He said he didn't want to be an assistant manager; he wanted to manage in his own right. But so they clearly rate him. I think he could go somewhere. Could easily go somewhere abroad, like, you know, where he doesn't have the baggage of being Roddy Collins. You know, like if you took Roddy to China, and you know you put him with a team who needed motivation, needed a smile put on their face, needed to feel confident about themselves, send him into the dressing room. Either Roddy speaking Mandarin would probably be enough to give them all a smile, you know?
Yeah, no, I only say that because he hasn't been employed in 6 or 7 years now, and has time not passed him by. Like,
I know it's longer. It's probably longer than that, I'd say. You know, I mean,
24th Cork. He had a couple of months at Cork, a couple of months at Derry.
He didn't manage Cork for a single match. They were in financial trouble, and he was appointed pre-season, and then he was sacked before they'd even played a match.
So he started, yeah.
Yeah. So he did. I don't think Roddy has completed a full season as a manager since
Bowes.
No. Sure, he took in the Premier
in
Division.
the League of Ireland. It's since Bowes.
No, he was. What about the First Division? He took Athlone Town.
Yeah. Forgot about First Division.
And United up.
Yeah.
Mero, you're getting very spiky here. I think you just need to relax for a few minutes.
I love the story when he was a player and they were wondering why he was scoring so many goals. But sure, he was ringing them in.
There was a phone in Dalymount Park, and it rang one day, and Roddy picked it up and he said, "Yes, the Evening Press." He said, "Yeah." He said, "What was the score of the match?" Roddy said 3-0. He said, "Who got the goals?" And Roddy realised this was for the paper, and he went, "Collins hat-trick." It was the league of. It was actually Bohemians reserves. It wasn't. They wouldn't send a report. They sent a report to the Bows match, but not to the reserves match. And so he said every week then he knew when the call was going to come. He'd be waiting by the phone. Who got the goals? 2-0. Collins, both goals.
Yeah.
And but he said on the building sites they were saying, "Jesus, you're banging them in for the reserves. It won't be long now before."
He said he got 47 goals in 12 matches.
There's a part as well. He's busy with the plastering, and it's kind of hard to get lads. And he's driving by this bus stop, and there's a lad with his bucket and his trowel. He's obviously a plasterer. And Roddy basically spoofs this lad into the car. This lad thinks Roddy's here to collect him to bring him to a job, but Roddy's bringing him to one of his jobs. Roddy says he's a Michelangelo of plastering, like a mirror. And he's with Roddy, I think, for a couple of weeks. And your man says, "Any word from Tony? Like, how is he? I haven't seen him." And Roddy says, "To be honest with you, I don't know who the fuck Tony is." You know, it's just like, it's nice when you're reading a book if you laugh out loud at a line or a story, and there's loads of it in it. I honestly, like Danny said earlier, not blowing smoke, I absolutely loved it. I was devastated when I finished.
I'm lucky because I'm still like I'm meeting Roddy for a pint tomorrow night. You know, we said we'd sort of close out the whole book experience with a pint in Bruxelles tomorrow night, and but I'm kind of still enjoying the Roddy Collins show in my life because I'm still on WhatsApp with him. Like, you know, I rang him the other day. He did the audio book, right? And the audio book was an ordeal for Roddy because Roddy can sit and talk to you lads and you wouldn't get a word in for 6 hours, right? But sitting down in front of a script and it suddenly feels really stilted or something, like rehearsed or something like that. So he wasn't enjoying the experience of doing the audio book. And the fellow who does the audiobooks is a fellow called Paul Fegan, and he's out in Coolock. and he does them from the back of a house in Coolock. He's got a little recording studio set up in a shed in the back garden. And him and Paul, you know, it was an ordeal for both of them, right? But Paul would just keep saying to him, Roddy, go for a walk around the block, go down to the Northside Shopping Centre, get a slice of pizza and Sbarro, and then come back, you know? And so they did it. But it took Roddy about 7 days to do the whole book, which actually I think is pretty good. I was surprised. I thought it was going to take him about 3 weeks or something, but did the whole thing in 7 days. And Roddy would be in tears. Roddy would be ringing me, and I can't do it. I'm not going back. I'm not fucking going back. This is like school again. I'm not fucking going back. That's it. Then he'd ring me and like, right, I've calmed down. I'll go back tomorrow. I'll give it another hour. And anyway, I rang Roddy last week and I said, him and Paul had just gone through this ordeal together. It was like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Like they were bonded by this, you know. And I rang Roddy last week and I said, how's it going, Roddy? He said, I'm grand. I said, where are you? He says, I'm in Paul Fegan's house. Right. I said, what are you doing in his house? He says, I'm plastering his kitchen as a favor. That's just Roddy. That's just Roddy. He meets you once, right? And you're his friend for life. Like he'll plaster your kitchen. He'll do anything for you. Just absolutely anything.
Oh, he's still plastering, is he?
Well, I mean, he doesn't do it for a living, but if he has the hawk and the trowel there, you know, if you say to him, Jesus, Roddy, that wall doesn't look straight, you go, back in a second, go to the car and get his tools, you know.
I remember I was working in finance during the Celtic Tiger, and I was looking for my Monday to Friday was motor finance, but the odd Saturday I would help out with the credit control department, and you do overtime and you'd be ringing up people about you know, missed payments or whatever. And
fucking young Finn Gael here, go on.
You wouldn't get the accounts.
Cheat us all off, fucking Varanka there. Look,
you wouldn't get the calls would just jump into your screen. You wouldn't be manually ringing them. You know, it was so I got you hear the ringtone, and then when the person answers, then the account comes up and you say, how's it going? It's Graham from Friends First Finance, just ringing you up to let you know you have a late payment there. So one day I got Rod Squad plastering. It came up account holder Roderick Collins. I didn't know what to fucking do. This is I'm gonna say 2004, 2005. I was at Carlisle, he was, and he fucking tore through me. He was like, I'm over. He tore through me. He was like, I'm in bleeding Carlisle. I'm over here every weekend. You get your bleeding money. I've 2 vans out for yous. You'll get your money. And I was like, yeah, okay, no worries. I just put a note. Client works for Carlisle United at weekends and will send over money when he gets paid.
Would you not have put a note? Client is an Irish football and sporting legend.
No, because Rovers have got relegated. I'm only joking.
He kept Rovers up. That's the other thing, Mero. And I think a lot of Rovers fans know this. That if they hadn't sacked Roddy Collins that autumn, Rovers would have stayed up, because he'd have kept them up in there's no way they'd have lost to Dublin City in a 2-legged playoff with Roddy Collins as the manager.
Yeah.
Well, I think Rovers wanted to get relegated at that stage, didn't they?
Why did they want to get relegated?
To get everyone off the payroll. They could, you know, bring the wages down, all that kind of thing. Sometimes you have to cut away everything and start again. I thought that was the case with Rovers at the time.
I don't think so. Paul, how did he sign Carlton Palmer?
Very defensive, aren't you, Rovers?
He
is, isn't he? And he's quite barbed about everything he's saying about Roddy as well.
It's like talking to you about Mary Lou. Like it's the whole energy changes. Like, you know,
how did he sign Carlton Palmer and FN Koku, Paul?
Roddy had great contacts in kind of among non-league managers. Like he had a cousin who was an agent over there, and then he knew a guy called John Still, and John Still had coached loads of clubs at underage level over there as well. And not underage level, at kind of non-league level. And both of them used to get him players occasionally. And I think Stilly, as he calls him, said, do you want Carlton Palmer? And Roddy said, Carlton Palmer, is he still playing? He said, yeah, he is. He's not great at the moment, but, you know, we'll do a job for you. And I think he said he'd do it for 200 quid a week plus his hotel room and flights in Dublin, you know. So I think I think he was best mates with Efan Okuku, and he persuaded him to sign. So that's how the two of them ended up playing for Dublin City. But I think when people saw Roddy sign these, in England they were has-beens, but in the League of Ireland they were marquee names, and everybody went, you must be paying them like 10 grand a week. They were getting 200 quid a week, according to Roddy. And he had sponsors for them. Like he had he got their flight sponsored, so they weren't paying to fly them over, and they weren't paying. He had a deal with the hotel that they put them up in the hotel, so it was costing the club just their wages. But I think that was a kind of dysfunctional setup, though, wasn't it? At Dublin City, I don't think they were. I think Dublin didn't need a fifth football club.
No, absolutely not.
The book is The Rodfather, Roddy Collins with Paul Howard. It's available in all good bookshops and some rubbish ones as well, lads. And if you're looking for a last minute Christmas present or even just treat yourself, couldn't recommend it highly enough.
Thanks, chaps.
It's on Audible as well, and Roddy has done the yoke. So if you're into audiobooks, give it actually, lads, to kind of shift it along a bit. Do you do the audiobook thing? Do you bother?
Yeah, I do.
I got Sinead O'Connor's one.
I've only started. I got a present of an Audible voucher, and I'd used Audible for podcasts before and whatever. And I've started them, and I've got about 3 or 4 of them on the go, and it's fucking great. I'm loving it.
It's always great when the actual author is reading it out as well.
Yeah, well, this is right. So, and I know, look, Bono's a pox and all that kind of thing, right? But honestly, the audiobook is fucking brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. It's not just like him reading the story. It's almost like a one-man show, but like it's got production value. It's got, there's music, there's sound effect, there's the whole thing. It's fucking brilliant.
I must give it a go, because I think you get your first book free, don't you?
You get 30 days, I think. You get a 30-day free trial, and in that you can use, it's done by credits on Audible. There's other audiobook things as well.
Well, do you do audiobooks for all your Ross books?
But I don't record them. I don't read them. Rory Nolan, who played Ross,
Rory reads them, does he?
He reads them, and he's done the last 4, but then he's also gone through the back catalog now as well. During COVID, I think he did 6 of them. So I think there's 10 of them out there now.
Wow.
I loved them. I was slow to it because I never got into the Kindle. I do love a book. Like I love the feel of a book in my hands and everything. I love to be able to feel how much progress I'm making through a book as well, and how much I've learned, that kind of thing. But I got into them because I commute. I have a commute every morning of about 45, 50 minutes, and I have a commute home in the car. And sometimes I don't want to be listening to the radio, and I don't want to be listening to music. And I think just stick something on that you can kind of lose yourself in a bit. And it just depends. I've had some pretty lousy ebooks, but some great ones as well. I'm listening to one at the moment called Fantasyland, and it's just about the history of what your man calls magical thinking in America. And your man's basically saying, Kurt Anderson is the author, and he's saying that America didn't suddenly arrive at a point where it elected Trump. America has been mad for 500 years. For all of its existence, America has believed in make-believe conspiracy theories. So he goes all the way back in history to the first people who landed in America and how mad they were. He goes back to, the founding fathers, how they were just bonkers people, the Salem witch trials, Bircherism, the what are they called, the Mormons, all of these religions and conspiracy theorists and everything, and just basically says they've all sort of concentrated into one now and become the Republican Party. But it's a brilliant book. But the thing that strikes me is if I was reading that, I'd find it quite heavy. I just find it really, and after 3 or 4 pages, I'd be going, geez, this is heavy. But I know listening to it, an hour of it in the car every morning and an hour in the evening, it's just a nice size. The guy who's reading it just reads it really well as well. You can get great ones. There's a brilliant book, won the Booker Prize a few years ago, Milkman. And it's about growing up in Belfast in the Troubles. And anyway, I'm trying to remember the name of the actress who reads it. The author doesn't read it. Anna Burns is the author. And I can't remember the actress's name, but just her voice is amazing. I tried to read the book, but it's written in kind of Belfast phonetics, and it's it's a little bit of a kind of mad paranoid voice as well. And after about 4 pages, I was going, this is, I couldn't get into it. But as soon as I heard the actress read it, I went, that's it. And I zipped through that one. It's about 20 hours long and it's just gripping.
Yeah.
How many books did you go through a week, Paul?
Probably two a week, I'd say.
Really?
Yeah, a couple a week.
Fucking hell. I'm not a big reader at all now. The last book I read is the one you bought me, Paul, about Ali and
that's a great book. Yeah,
it's brilliant. That was the last book. No, sorry, you sent me a good book when my grandfather passed. Remember the bereavement book?
Yeah. The book about the wake.
Yeah, that was very good.
Willis's book about the Irish wake. Yeah,
that was good as well. But other than that, I haven't read since.
No, I love a good book. Yeah, now like the struggle for me is finding the time to, and that's where the audiobooks are fucking brilliant because, like I said, if you're in the car or whatever, the Billy Connolly autobiography, Windswept and Interesting, right? I bought the book and like I start reading it, but in my head I'm reading it in Billy Connolly's voice because I can't help but there's some bits with that are actually really heavy, and I kind of found it a bit like, oh Jesus. So I get the audiobook a shot, and because it's Billy himself, even those heavy bits are you know, the way he tells them in a very Billy Connolly way, and it's much more enjoyable, you know.
Have you read or listened to the Alan Partridge autobiography?
No, I haven't.
Oh, listen, get the audiobook, right? It's called I Partridge, right? And then there's a second one, which is he walks from he does this walk from you know those books about walks, like all these people do these, the English celebrities do these walks along the Pennines or Hadrian's Wall or something. He walks from his old house to this nuclear power station where his father applied for a job, right? he walks along the motorway all the way, right? But it is the two books, right? The funny, Steve Coogan reads them, right? I swear, I'm not lying to you, right? We listened to the autobiography on the way to Belfast, and I had to, with Mary and me in the car, and I had to keep pulling in. Mary kept saying, Paul, pull in, because I was laughing so much. I thought I was going to go off the road, right? I'd just be she'd have to pause that, and I'd just be roaring and laughing, right? And then we go off again, and then he'd say something else, and I said, I think I'm gone, Mary, pull in. And then the walks one. There's a chapter in the walks book, right? And it's just called Edmonds, right? And it's all about his hatred for Noel Edmonds. Right? Right? It's one of the funniest pieces of writing I've ever read. It's just it just keeps referring to him as Edmonds. You know, people often ask me why I hate Edmonds. Oh, that's how it starts. Like, and he just launches into 30 years of bile about Noel Edmonds. It's just. But those two books, the two Partridge ones, they are. I mean, I've listened to both of them, I'd say 10 times. They're that good. Yeah. Gary, I'd put them up there with The Office. They're that funny.
Listen, I'm flat out on The Office since it's odd year, really. I must have gone through season 1 and season 2 and the two specials. Honestly, Gemma's killing me about 30 times. I just can't get enough of it. And I'm watching it in work and everything. Like, I just flat out on Brent. But I'm intrigued by Gareth Keenan at the minute because he's just like, that guy nails it. I can't think of his name, but
Mackenzie Cook, isn't it? Mackenzie
yes, Cook, that's right. Yeah, and you miss things in The Office. Like, I've probably watched each episode 50 times, but you'll come across a little line and it'll just get you in the stomach, and you're just pissing yourself. But there's a podcast called Wernham Blog, and the lads break down The Office for what they believe it to be, and then that's after giving it another edge for me.
Yeah. I have to listen to that. What's it called? Wernham Blog.
Wernham Blog, yeah.
Right.
Like I didn't conceive in my head that Brent in season 1 was possibly going through a breakdown.
Yeah,
the lads give reasons as to why he possibly is going through a breakdown, and how his relationship with Don actually gets worse and worse each episode, which isn't something you'd notice until somebody actually says it to you.
Yeah.
But no, I'll give that I Partridge a go on the Audible.
Do you know what I love about The Office, Gary? Exactly what you said there. Just the little lines that you're laughing at the big jokes at the time, right? The big headline punchlines, the gags, the dance and all that kind of thing, right? And then with every watch, you just start to marvel at every line in that is funny, but you might not realize it's funny yet, right? There's a brilliant line. One of my favorite lines in the whole thing, right, is he's showing the new girl around the office and he says to her, have you used email before? Yeah, it's easy, isn't it? Right? It's just but the funny thing is about that line, Gary, right? Like that was written in 2001 when email was about a year old. Like, well, maybe two. Like, I think I got my first email account in maybe 1999. Around that time, so it was quite that would have been a sort of all right gag, you know what I mean? That it's 2 years old. Of course, she knows how to use it, but like watching it now, 25 years out, it's what a line, like, you know.
And of course, in that scene, it's when everybody sends a picture around of Brent, with a pair of tits and all that.
Yeah.
and he's trying to get to the bottom of who sent it. And everyone puts their hand up. And even Joan, the cleaner, puts her hand up. And he says, Joan, you don't even have email. And she said, somebody printed it out for me. He says, who printed that out for Joan? And everyone puts their hand up. It's just brilliant.
The training day. I think the training day might be the greatest episode of comedy I've ever seen. I think it's better than any Fawlty Towers, any, Fools and Horses, any great comedy. I think that particular episode, go and get the guitar.
Yeah, it is. It's so good. I love the charity one when it's Red Nose Day, because the first scene is Brent and he's completely hyped up for the day, giggling his arse off. Finchy comes in, kisses for £1 off Don, but the day gets worse and worse. Neil and Rachel completely nailed their dance. The whole office are up clapping them. And he breaks into his dance, obviously, which is now one of the most famous scenes. But the day gets worse and worse for him because he's told at the end of that day he's going to be made redundant.
Yeah.
And he's in the ostrich outfit because he's to meet the Slough Gazette. So from the first scene to the last scene, the man's world just flips.
Yeah.
But it's so fucking good.
All his TV shows are great, though. Like, Extras is brilliant.
Yeah, Extras
was very good, yeah.
Derek was fabulous.
Derek was sensational.
Afterlife. I loved Afterlife.
Yeah, so good. So good. Mero, you don't like a stand-up, you were saying the other day. I like a stand-up, particularly in the world that we live in now, with pronouns and he, him and all that shit.
And all that shit, Gary.
No, but like, I mean, in terms of for him to turn around and say, real women with actual wombs, he's one of the only people that I don't mean that to sound spiteful or antagonizing, but he is still saying it how he is, and he's one of the few people who probably can say it how it is.
That's just being jockful. That's not really being comedy, though, is it?
I don't know. I don't know that it's not being comedy. I think he's eliciting laughter. He's eliciting laughter from an audience. It's not standing up telling one-liners, but neither was Lenny Bruce. Lots of people said Lenny Bruce wasn't comedy because it was just kind of mostly angry commentary that people often found amusing. But it's still comedy. Like, it's not Michael McIntyre. It doesn't belong in that space of those sort of comedy roadshow things. But I've seen him do stand-up a few times live. I've seen the shows. I love those first couple of ones he did, Animals and Fade. I thought they were absolutely brilliant, where they were kind of set up like a lecture. He had a lectern there, and he would actually kind of stick to a theme, and I really enjoyed those. I have to say, I thought the last Netflix special was just okay. I thought the one before that was absolutely brilliant. I loved that one. But I saw him live a few times actually, and it didn't work for me. I saw him do stand up live because it was in the Three Arena, And this is a thing that kills me about stand-ups. I saw the Alan Partridge show in the Three Arena this year.
Yeah.
You weren't impressed at that, weren't you?
No, I wasn't. And I saw Peter Kay in the Three Arena, and I thought he died on his arse. For me, he died. And it's because comedy isn't meant to be heard by a vast audience of 19,000 people or whatever it is, 15,000 people. Like, comedy is a much more intimate thing. But for the ideal, the biggest venue for me, largest size venue, should be about 800, 900 seats, 1,000 seats maybe. Like, so somewhere like the Olympia or
Vicar Street or
something like that. Vicar Street works well for comedy.
Perfect for comedy, because it kind of feels like it's just us. It's just us in the room. But this idea of a stadium, essentially a stadium audience for a comedy act, a stadium audience, for Bruce Springsteen or for U2 or something, but not for a man with a microphone telling jokes. Peter Kay is a club comedian. He is a Phoenix Nights type club comedian.
Oh, Phoenix Nights was amazing.
He doesn't belong on that. It's too big. It's just too big for what he's doing.
I thought that was a good show on the Point, Paul.
Which one? The Partridge one?
No, the Peter Kay one I thought was excellent in the Point.
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I laughed at all the stuff, but there's a little element of doing your best, your greatest hits, the garlic bread and all that, give us garlic bread, and it's not part of a spontaneous comedy show. It's just like, say all your funny lines kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a farewell tour nearly, isn't it?
Yeah. I saw Jerry Seinfeld in there as well. Exactly the same thing. Just
it's those big venues, because there's a distance between the performer and the audience, and it's harder then to get, because sometimes the best thing in a comedy show, like you're saying, when it's intimate, laughter's so it's such an infectious thing, and it's so contagious that 10,000 people, there's a bit of a delay. There's a gap or something, and it just doesn't allow that organic kind of thing. As you said, it's just they have their set, they have their lines, and it's one after the other kind of thing. And
going to the International Comedy Club in the Attic there, that's excellent. It's only about 50 people in it. That's class.
Yeah. And you can see this. If you can see the comedian's face and you can see the expression on his face or her face, that's a brilliant thing, because you kind of feel like you're part of it, aren't you? But
or if your eye line catches their eye line, it's I seen Tommy Tiernan in Vicar Street, Jesus, over 20 years ago, and he was absolutely amazing. And we were right up the front, so you had that intimate feel. You felt like he was talking to you almost.
I think that's why those sort of things, like the small, well, they're big festivals, but they're small venues and gig after gig after gig kind of thing. I think that's why they work so well, because you get to see good acts, but in that more intimate setting, and it's just much better. Some of the stuff at Donkey Book, I know it's not a comedy festival, but some of the stuff at Donkey Book Festival is hilarious, and I think it's because the venue was suited to that kind of small, laughter is contagious type of atmosphere. You go to Kilkenny Cat Laughs against the same, they're small little places, and you're getting to see comedians that probably do the Vicar Streets and that, but in a sort of 200 sort of seater environment. It's just much better.
I saw Dave McSavage in Vicar Street must be about 5 or 6 years ago, and McSavage had been off the drink for a few years, and anyway, he arrived on the stage with a pint, right? His opening line was, "So I'm back on the drink." That was his opening line, right? And Jesus, that was some show. It was dark, and Mary said to me afterwards, "Jesus, I'm glad I'm not going home with him tonight." But within the darkness, you could see the genius. I don't know. There's a lot of, there's a whole thesis to be written about comedians and whether they're funny when they're troubled, or whether they're, whether they're less funny when they actually have no woes in their lives. He was at a dark point in his life at that stage. But I'll tell you, I think
his whole life has been a dark point.
I think he's a very, very funny man. But that night was just genius, and it was. So much of it was just bile, right? When I tell you lads about my latest visit to the post office, and I'm just angry about some exchange I've had. Never in a Avoca post office, I should say. It's an excellent post office, and the staff. But But that was the thing with McSavage, right? It all came from a place of darkness, right? So he started slagging off Dara O'Brien, Des Bishop, Tommy Tiernan, Neil Delamere. But he hates them all, but he started doing impressions of them without actually using any words, right? So he's going, oh yeah, what do you think of fucking Dara O'Brien, And he just goes, and I mean, I didn't do it very well, but him, it was flipping no perfect. Like it was absolutely brilliant. And because it was coming from a place of spite and anger, just the whole audience loved it. And I think he was angry because remember he had the savage eye.
Yeah.
So it must have
What
been
a show.
Must have been more
What
than
a
4
show.
years ago. It must be 10 years ago I saw this, or 8 years ago. But the savage eye from the second series, Bill Malone, who was the head of entertainment in RTE, he'd pulled a sketch out of the show and he pulled it for taste reasons, right? Now, I suppose he got an awful lot worse than this past the censors. And if I was McSavage, I'd have gone, I've got away with it. I mean, he had a priest with a kid under his arm.
Yeah. In every show.
And so he got that past the censors. And I'd have just left this. I'd have said, listen, the show doesn't need it, right? But basically, the sketch was, there used to be an ad on telly. You may remember it. You may be too young, but it was 11 o'clock Diet Coke break. And all these women go to the window at our building to watch this construction
window
work.
Cleaner or something, was it?
Yeah, he was a window cleaner or something, but he had his top off and he was drinking 6-pack and all the rest, like myself and Gary from the gym. And but anyway, so he drinks the Diet Coke and that was the ad, right? But anyway, McSavage reimagined it as a load of nuns and they run to the window and there's Jesus Christ with the thorns and everything. He's drinking a Diet Coke, right? But it's McSavage, so it's a scrawny body and everything, Anyway, they pulled the sketch, and McSavage knew Bill Malone was going to the show in Vicar Street that night. He'd pulled it. So he made a big issue of, I've got Bill Malone here from RT. He pulled the sketch. I'm going to show it up on the screen here. And he showed up.
Jesus.
Screen, right? He said, what do you think? Do you think that's suitable for television? Everyone's going, yeah. It was so anarchic. It was one of those shows where you think he might just walk off now at any moment. It's like going to see Van Morrison or Bob Dylan in a bad mood. It was just like, this could just end at any moment and we'll all be talking about it tomorrow.
But if you think about the Savage Eye and the content that was in it, like there was the sketch where the barman, what was his name? Can't think of his fucking name.
He's based on the barman.
The Bull, wasn't he?
The Bull, mate. Yeah, the Bull. He had the gay lads locked up in cages on a farm.
Yeah,
he's firing seed at them. This is the Cavan Queer.
Yeah.
He dances for seeds and all. Like, you wouldn't get away with that now. Like,
some people would, though, Some people would. Like, I watch, Mary and I, we were actually watching Seinfeld, an old Seinfeld here, before I came on to use. And there was 2 storylines in it. And we were just looking at each other going, Jesus, you wouldn't get away with that now. But Larry David would on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he still gets away with stuff. It kind of, I think it depends who you are. And then, like David Brent, Ricky Gervais would probably get away with it because there's certain comedians who don't live in fear of being cancelled, who don't live in fear of that, of the judgment of their peers or the wider public. They just kind of say, well, there's enough people out there who know what I'm trying to do, and I have enough money that I don't have to worry if 90% of the consumers hate me.
Yeah, they'll always have an audience anyway.
Yeah.
Gary,
yes.
Bad Sisters.
Oh, stop. Really good. So for anyone who hasn't seen it, you should watch it because it's a character in it called JP. And he is the most ignorant, rude, arrogant,
vile,
pompous prick you could ever come across, but he's unbelievably likable.
Outside of a staff room.
Yes. He is so likable. That actor absolutely nails the role, what was required of him. really good show. Enjoyed it. Great to see all the local bits like the 40 foot and all that in it. But JP is he reminds me of I think everybody knows somebody like JP. JP reminds me of somebody I can't actually say who he reminds me of.
I know who you mean. Let me say that.
If anyone wants to message me privately, I'll tell them and they'll agree.
He's
really
from
good show.
Ballybrack. Should we say he's from Ballybrack and we all know him?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
we're not liable on anyone.
Paul, you wrote episode 8. What was that process like, and how did you get it?
Well, I've known Sharon Horgan for a few years. I wrote a comedy show called Pink Ink about 9 years ago. It was about 4 chicklet writers living in Glenageary, and they were all best mates, but they all hated each other, right? So they were all nice to each other's faces, and then they were just constantly trying to cut each other's throats, you know, when their backs were turned. And I wrote that, and I sent it to Sharon, and she liked it, you know, and so she said, I'm going to pitch this to the BBC. And the BBC said they really liked it, but they were already doing a show with 4 women in it at that stage. Like, that's what television is like.
God forbid they do 2 of them.
Ridiculous. Yeah. You know, we've ticked the 4 women box for the next 3 years. So Sharon rang me back and said, I'm really disappointed with this, but she said, why don't we rewrite it as an American show and go to America and pitch it? So we did, and I rewrote it, and then we took it to Los Angeles, and we pitched it to 14 studios altogether. We went to Fox, and we went to ABC, and we went to Disney, and we went to all these studios. Wow. And we're sitting in these we're sitting in pitching rooms with these executives. Now, an executive could be anything, right? An executive could be a 25-year-old guy in a hoodie, or it could be a 56-year-old man in a suit, right? And every company has different ideas of what an executive is. There was one, I think it was ABC. We went in, and there's 5 executives, and they're completely representative, right? Ethnically, gender, every way possible. It's a representative board, but they were all really young, and it was brilliant, because you're looking at them thinking, hang on a second, who watches television? 25-year-olds. So why shouldn't 25-year-olds be deciding what goes on television? Why are 60-year-old men telling 25-year-olds what they want to watch, you know? So that was kind of nice. But then there were rooms with 60-year-olds in. But the thing I discovered actually was the 25-year-olds are very difficult to make them laugh, right, when you're in the room. Whereas the older ones are much easier to laugh. So we pitched it, and the pitch would last an hour. So I had to sort of stand up for an hour and just tell them the show, tell them what it was about, go through them character by character, why each character is funny, go through episode by episode, then this happens, and then what happens at the end, and how we're going to launch into season 2. And so each pitch was an hour. I tailored it for each one. So Sharon would say to me, ABC, they're a bit dry, so take out that word. Definitely don't say that word in front of them. And then another one, she might say, ramp up the comedy a bit more. And we got a sale. We sold the sitcom to E. E had all the Kardashian money at the time, and they were going into scripted comedy. They commissioned 10 different shows, and ours was one of the ones they commissioned. So we did it. We wrote it. And then they decided not to do scripted comedy after all. The thing just died. But it was fine. We all got paid and met Sharon out of it, you know, and then stayed in touch with her, did a couple of little bits and pieces, different ideas, did a little bit of writing for her. And then when she was doing this show, she said to me, I think it'd already been commissioned, and they'd one episode that hadn't been written, and they felt that they didn't have enough Irish writers on the show. There was only one other Irish writer, I think, on the show, Alva Keoghan, and Sharon, of course. But they felt they needed another Irish writer. There was a couple of English writers and a couple of American ones. And
is that you being a bit modest now, Paul, that they didn't have enough Irish writers?
Well, they were looking for an Irish writer, and I think my name came into her head. I think that's essentially what it was. And she just rang me up and said, would you be interested? And I said, Jesus, absolutely. And there was still kind of at the late writers' room phase at that stage. So basically, it was all done on Zoom at that stage. We're starting season 2 now, and that's going to be done in person. But this one was on Zoom because of COVID. And we're having these meetings, and it's as well as doing the episode, like there was kind of input onto all the others. Like, I think this character should be a bit more this way and that way, and I don't think that would happen like that. You're kind of inputting on plot and all that kind of stuff as well, and storyline, and then I went away and did episode 8, and it was difficult. It's a tricky thing to do because I'd read the script of episodes 1 to 4, so you're trying to divine from the script what a character is like. You're trying to keep the characters consistent, but then I hadn't read 5, 6, and 7.
Wow.
Right. But I know what has to happen in 8, but I don't know the ending of 7. So I'm kind of starting a little bit in midair, but it's about writing and rewriting and all the rest. So I must have done maybe 30 drafts. So they come back and they go, I really like that one, but whoever's writing episode 7, they couldn't fit this plot bit in there. Could you take that into your episode? And then you're seeing, how do I fit that into that? So it's all about rewriting. I heard Roddy Doyle talking recently about script writing, and he was asked, what's the difference between writing prose and writing a script? And he just said, it's just really, really easy to fill a page of script, right? Because he just said, 2 people walk into a room, one says, hello, the other guy says, hello, how are you? Yeah, not bad. Haven't seen you in ages. Yeah, I haven't been around. There's the page finished, right? And then he said, by the end of the process, you're looking at that page saying, how do I get these 2 guys into the room without saying hello to each other or asking each other how they are? It's all about cutting back and pruning. So it's a totally different process to writing a book. Completely.
And is there a second season of Bad Sisters, Paul?
Apple have confirmed it. Yeah, it's coming. I presume it'll be. I'm guessing it's going to be 2 years, but we're starting writing of it next year.
It's a fantastic show, and there's not one character that's wasted writing in it. If you get what I mean by that, every character in their own right contributes and is brilliant. And it was just I got to watch it twice because I was watching it, but then we also watched it for Gogglebox. And watching it the second time, you pick up on things that you don't pick up the first time around. So it's great. But it's absolutely brilliant, just brilliant. The 4 lead women are absolutely amazing. And I know
where do they go now, though, Paul, in the second series? Because the whole premise of the series was to get rid of JP.
Yeah. Well, it's 5 lead women, isn't it? Yeah. I can't tell anything about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, I wasn't actually. I wasn't expecting an answer. I was just.
But I do love. I do love, right, that absolutely everybody I know who watched it just couldn't stop talking about how repulsive JP was, and then got a message from Gary saying, "Oh, I love JP."
the actor who played him was absolutely amazing.
Danish, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Danish English. I think he spent a lot of time in England. I think for Irish audiences, I was explaining this to a couple of the other writers on it, that for Irish audiences, there's an extra frisson of hatred for him because he has that little hint of an English accent, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It brings out that little fella in the balaclava out of you, doesn't it? When you hear that, I hate English, man. I'm more anti that kind of thing as anyone, right? But when I hear a man saying, calling an Irish woman mummy, well,
oh my god, yeah.
I was just going to say that
fella with the Armalite and the flipping the balaclava comes charging out of my chest.
A friend of me and Gary's will start calling his wife mum because of this.
It's a dangerous game, isn't it, to play?
Actually, a friend of ours, and he only watched it a couple of weeks ago, Mara, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He finished it a couple of weeks ago, and I said to myself, I can't wait to hear his take on John Paul, and it was exactly how I thought it would go. He fucking adores him.
Jesus.
Thinks there's nothing like him. So he's calling his missus mammy now around the house, and she fucking hates it, which is great.
She's German.
Yeah, she's German. Yeah.
Do you like writing TV, Paul?
I do. Yeah, yeah. Listen. It's a totally different. It's a totally different kind of high. Sitting watching a program on television and hearing famous actors saying lines you wrote, like it's weird and brilliant as well, you know. But so I'm still kind of a bit obsessed with the magic of it. Whereas I'm in rooms with experienced writers, I can't tell them that, you know. I can't tell them. I was sitting at home shouting at the telly, I wrote that line to Brinkley's. But I love it. Like it's great, but mostly I love that kind of collaborative thing, working with a team, because I don't do it very often. I did it with the plays, the musicals, but mostly I'm sitting in my little office in the Voca, you know, churning out words. So to go into a room with just really, really talented people as well, like, you know, you're just in writers' room, meetings with other writers, the writers' room, and you just hear suggestions and they just blow your mind a little bit. Like, you know, you just have to be really, really on your game and concentrating, because everybody in that room is just really, really smart and just have great ideas, you know. So you
how did you go from like an award-winning sports journalist to being able to write TV? Did you have to go, did someone just say, oh, here, Paul, this is how you write TV? Did you have to, did you just teach yourself?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I like everything in my life. I've kind of just bungled into it, you know. Like like when I left school, I wanted to be a sports journalist, right? But the only thing I actually got out of school that was going to make me a sports journalist was, you know, I knew how to type because of brother Jim, and Jerry Murta had given me a decent English education, you know. That's what I took out of school that was going to help me, you know. But I went home and I learned shorthand sitting at the dinner table every evening. Like I had a book and I taught myself shorthand, and you know, and I learned the rules to loads of sports I'd absolutely no interest in, just so I could kind of earn money as a freelance sports writer. So I kind of that was always me, you know. But I was a sports writer for years and years and years. And then in 2005, I took a sabbatical to write the books. But the first time I ever wrote a Ross book, I had no idea how to write a book, but I did it. And then you have more experienced people than you just come and tell you, no, you got that wrong. You do it this way. And you just learn, you say, I'll do it that way next time. And everything that's happened in my life for about the last 17 years has just been a complete accident. I've just stumbled into it. I never had any desire to write for the theatre. I'd never any desire to write a musical. I never any desire to write children's books, never any desire to write a novel. I just wanted to be a sports reporter. So television is just the latest thing I tripped up and fell into, you know, like, and I'm sounding blasé about it, but it is kind of, like, I know how to write, like I know how to write dialogue between two people, and books is the books I write are mostly dialogue between characters, and television is all dialogue between characters. Movies are all dialogue between characters. So it's just different kinds of dialogue between characters, different styles. But yeah,
that's life in general, though, isn't it? We're like, we all wing it, and we're all winging it, but we all just wing it in a different way, and you do what you do to get by, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, when your boss says to you, do you think you can do that? And you go, you're nodding, yep, absolutely. And inside you're going, oh, fuck. Why?
Every day, every fucking day.
Every day.
You go away and you say, how am I going to do this? And you might get it 60% right. And then somebody else says, oh, you've got that wrong. And they help you. And then you get it 75% right. But then within a year, you're getting it 95% right. That's kind of, I suppose that's the best way to describe it, really.
True. Very true.
Paul, are we allowed to talk about the potential play that you're doing next summer?
What was that?
The one that you told me to swore to secrecy about 3 months ago.
Hang on.
The musical.
Is this Dermot Bannon, the musical?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can talk about. I don't think it's going to happen next summer, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
Dermot Bannon,
really
the musical.
I don't think that's a secret. I think we might have spoken about this before, did we, Gary?
Yeah, we had some dialogue about it, all right. Yeah,
because I remember Gary Gary's saying that he would not be a ticket buyer because he's not a fan of Mr. Dermot Bannon. Gary, would you like to tell us again, for those who didn't hear it the first time, why you're not a fan of Mr.
Well,
Dermot?
we had a little sneak preview of what Paul thinks of Dermot Bannon because we had Let There Be Light on,
That's
on
right.
the Late Show.
Yeah.
Look, I Danny was worried the last time I went in on Dermot that there could be a bit of libel involved, so I won't go to town again. I did get a letter on WTS headed paper.
Which we had to create especially for the occasion, Gary.
I know some people who Dermot done work for, and it didn't end well, and there was some legal shit and all after it, you know. Which can happen. It can happen with a small builder, an architect, a developer, whatever you want to call them. But
You're doubling down now, is it?
no, I just think he's full of shit. Full of shit.
That's fair. That's not loyal, so I'm all right with that, Gary.
I had some dealings with him back in the Celtic Tiger in MRCB, and he was just full of shit.
Yeah,
full of shit. And I seen a lot, even with interior designers and stuff. People would parade into the shop. This is the height of the Celtic Tiger. Like, we used to sell rolls of wallpaper for fucking €900, and half it you'd be fucking away because of the pattern. Like,
yeah.
And they'd parade into the shop with their big A1 fucking plastic holders. I'm a designer. Are you? Yeah. What's popular at the moment? They'd say to us. We'd say, you're the fucking designer, and you're asking us what's popular. But there was all these cunts, the architects and designers, and they're just winging it like everybody else.
Yeah.
Winging it. Completely winging it. We would
You
have had
created you created a couple of paints that still exist, didn't you?
Yeah, I done a colour card for Colour Trend in 2004. There was 16 colours on the palette, and they still use 12 of them in their books.
And
Wow.
what's the favourite?
Pardon?
What's the favourite?
Well, I done one called Almost White. It was brilliant white with the tiniest hint of ivory, and it would have been used on coving, skirt, and store frames, stuff like that. All the posh L ones loved it.
What was it called? Almost White.
Almost White. Yeah.
I love all the posh elements.
Yeah, they loved all the bullshit.
Yeah.
But there was one called.
Is there any colour you regret?
No, funny enough. No. There was a gorgeous colour. It was ahead of its time. It was called Railings. And it was a gunmetal grey. And every second door in Rackgar was Railings in 2005. Trust me.
It was a paint ahead of its time.
Because nobody was using gunmetal greys and charcoal greys in 2004 until we started selling it. It's true.
Oh, that is. I've never heard a paint described as that in my life, but it's fair. You're right, Gary. I don't think I'd heard of gunmetal until the 2010s, so to speak.
But
Almost White.
The Celtic Tiger was a mad time because I remember there was this guy on the go on the Dublin circuit. He was kind of a half celebrity, half fucking everything. Simon Stokes was his name. Real posh fella. And him and his brother opened this gentleman's club on Stephen's Green. It was just up from the Shelbourne.
Yeah.
And he was one of these lads, he knew everybody in town. He'd apartments here, restaurants there, probably financed by daddy, but nobody knew that. And he come into the shop one day and he was opening this gentleman's club on Stephen's Green. But he didn't want to pay some poxy fucking designer to tell him what to do. He'd rather people on the ground tell him. So we were the people on the ground. But we didn't really have time for pretentious pricks who probably weren't going to pay you in the end, and you put all this time into them. But he said to me what the theme of the place was. So there was going to be a library in the place, a snooker room, a bar, cocktail area, sushi area. And I said, paint everything in dark grey. Fucking everything. Really? Why? And I said, well, you're going to be adding colour with carpet and fucking, whatever else. He said, that's fucking great. And he painted everything in dark grey. And the place closed about 3 months later.
Was there a crushed bulb colour?
Crushed bulb was a teal colour, yeah.
Why is it called crushed bulb?
Just to create drama on the palette.
Gary, the club you're talking about is Residence, right? And
yes.
I was one of those people who was actively encouraged around 2005 to become a member of Residence. Okay. And I remember going in and having a look around. It was like, why did you pop in and have a look at the facilities? So I popped in, and you know what I thought when I was in there? It's too fucking dark. That's the reason I didn't join. It was too dark. It was just, it didn't bring me joy. I just went in and went, this place, it depressed me. It's too dark.
I'm right though, Paul. You do remember the place?
I do remember it, yeah. Their mother was Pia Bang. Do you remember Pia Bang? She used to own Pia Bang Home on Grafton Street, and Pia Bang fashion. She was a fashion kind of women's club, but they used to dress posh women from Donnybrook and Ranelagh.
Yeah. Now, I have to say, he was a nice fella to talk to and have a conversation with. Well, you could just tell he had an agenda at the back of everything.
Oh, yeah.
Gary, I say you saw some characters, did you?
Yeah, geez. There used to be this sign writer called John O'Halloran. He was about 6'7", a big, huge man. He was a roaring alcoholic. But he was the most famous sign writer.
Beeping this out.
Is he still alive?
No, he's dead.
Oh, grand. Right, can't lie about dead.
He roaring alcoholic, but John couldn't
smile there when he found out he was dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He was really famous in the city centre. He would have done like Donny and Nesbitt's and loads of stuff like that. Really good, really talented. But he'd have to have the guts of a bottle of whiskey before he worked, because his hand would be rattling. But we used to have these. They were an oxtail brush, so it was the hair of from an ox, and they were really small, but they would give a precision finish to leathers and stuff like that. And we had them in this, they used to have a little savings box when you were a kid and it'd have a lock on it. We had to keep them in that because they were 200 quid for this little small brush. But John would come in, and any time John come in, he was a kleptomaniac. He had to rob something. Always on the fucking rob.
This man definitely dead, Gary.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
It's a good story when people keep saying, is he definitely dead?
Yeah.
But he come in one day, and he always wore like a tweed suit jacket with a shirt, and the shirt would have fucking stew and coddle and shit all over it. But John's trick was he'd try and get the oxtail brush up his sleeve. And we always used to be told, do not take your eyes off the brushes, because he will get them. So I think I was hungover one morning, and he managed to get one up the sleeve. I said, John, will you don't start now? And he was like the BFG. He was fucking huge. Pardon? I said, the brush gone up your sleeve. Up my sleeve? I said, yeah. I said, take it out, John, because I'm only going to get a bollocking if you whip that brush. Like, we know how many we have now. He's proved that I took it. And as he said that, he belched, right? And it was like this Chernobyl mist. My head went back, and he just walked out of the shop. But people from Mead Street used to come into us, because it was on Thomas Street, and they used to call Dulux Durex. And they say, have you got that Durex Orchid White? They all used to call it Durex. But it was. I tell you, the Celtic Tiger was a fucking great time. You see what we've had since? What are we, 15 years into fucking Tory leadership? People being fucking kicked from pillar to post, robbed left, right, and centre. Bring back Bertie and the lads. I'm telling you,
a great time in our lives. I'm with Gary on this. Like I did a kind of reevaluation of my life during COVID, as we all did, when I was fucking, sitting every day in what could loosely be described as leisure wear, watching the telly with spit running down my face for a year and a half, right? did a reappraisal of my life, and I realized that the happiest time in my life, right, was when I was a kid, right, when I was a kid in Ballybrack, right. That's the happiest time in my life. But the next happiest time in my life was the Celtic Tiger. It was, and we've all been conditioned to tell ourselves that the Celtic Tiger was a terrible thing because of how it ended, right? And because of the recession, and because of like austerity. No, austerity wasn't our fault. The politicians and the bankers, they decided we were getting austerity, right? They didn't need to give us that, but they did, right? But the Celtic Tiger itself, having grown up in a country where we thought we were going to have to emigrate or we were going to be on the dole for the rest of our lives. Like, there was no hope. When I was in Lawrence's in the 80s, right, nobody thought they were leaving school for a dream job. Nobody thought they was going to own property in another European country, like, but nobody thought anything. Like, you couldn't borrow money, you couldn't do anything in Ireland. But to go from that to suddenly within 10 years getting a letter from the bank saying you've been approved for a loan for 10 grand, and you couldn't even fucking remember asking for the 10 grand, but you if you want it, it's there. And I rang the bank and said, I didn't apply for this loan. Your mum went, no, you don't apply for it. You're just pre-approved. If you want it, you can have it. You're going to give me 10 grand. Yeah. What for? Whatever you want. Fucking brilliant. Just the confidence of that, the confidence that gave us as a generation with no confidence at all, who looked shit, who fucking thought Ireland was shit, like, who just thought nothing of the place. And suddenly somebody wants to give you 10 grand, somebody you've never met before, believes in you enough to give you 10 grand, Now, we couldn't pay them back, but
I remember, I think it was 2001, 2002, which we were in the boom, but a lot of people wouldn't have realized they were in a boom, but things were good. And I remember my dad showing me HSBC sent them a HSBC card with this number across it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Eamon, you have been approved for 40,000. Dial this number, to avail. Have that dream holiday. Mad carry on.
Yeah.
But when you look at how we're living now, to how we lived, and like Daniel Murray, yous are a little bit younger. Yous missed it.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
I remember working in Friends for Finance doing new motor business, and I'd be
This is another Roddy Collins story, Merrick.
No. I was doing new business, so I was putting the applications in for the loans, and you'd be having lads that are like for 3 to 5 years into their electrician or whatever trade they were doing, and they'd be requesting a loan for a Volkswagen Golf or Polo for 5 grand. I go over to the underwriter come back to me within 5 minutes, tell him we'll give him 15. I said, but he's only looking for 5. Yeah, but just tell him if he wants a newer car, we'll give him 15. So you were doing that to nearly every second client, like, and the young lads were loving life. And then I remember just as the fall in 2007, 2008, when it started falling on its arse, when the same lads that were approved for those type of loans were then falling back on their payments, and we were sending people out to repossess their cars. And I remember thinking to myself, this lad only asked for a 5 grand loan. Now his car's being taken off him because he got a 15 grand loan.
It's brilliant. It was brilliant.
It was mad.
A friend of mine went into his toilet one day, and the plumber was snorting cocaine off the top of his cistern. Fucking plumber he hired, right, to fix his leaky kitchen, his leaky bathroom sink, was snorting cocaine off his cistern at 11 o'clock in the morning.
What did he say?
Just said, "Oh, sorry," and we'll walk back out. And we were still Irish. You know what I mean? We didn't stop being embarrassed Irish people, like, just because people were snorting coke in your toilet. But I remember the Wicked Wolf in Blackrock, and I think I might have said it to one or two of your lads before, like, the Wicked Wolf in Blackrock was the height of the Celtic Tiger for me. Going down there on a Monday night, and it was like Coyote Ugly. The place was hopping, absolutely hopping. And there'd be 4 women on the bar, standing on the bar in like cowboy boots, knee-high cowboy boots, cut-off shorts, like boob tubes, Stetsons, and they'd each have 2 bottles of Grey Goose vodka, right, one in either hand. And the men would just be leaning back onto the bar with their mouth open, right? And these women be walking the length of the bar, just pouring vodka into people's mouths, right? On a Monday night.
On a Monday night.
Monday night. Don't let anybody tell you anymore. It was a shameful time in our lives. It was the decadence. It was the last days of the Roman Empire. It was fucking magic.
Gary, I just want to go back to your story there a minute ago, and of all the things you said about that man, you called him an alcoholic, you called him a thief, you made some absolutely outrageous things about him, but the most damaging thing that you said about him was that he ate coddle, and I want that on the record. Lads, we're at this nearly 2 hours, so and it's meant to be a Christmas special, and we haven't mentioned Christmas once, which is fucking brilliant, to be honest with you. We'll head off into the sunset, but what's the plans for 2023? Gary, we'll go to you first.
2023. Do you know something? I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm just going to wing it.
It's very, very on theme with what we've just been talking about.
Yeah, what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? I'm never going to be in movies.
So you're fucking never say never, Gary.
Well, Howie might get into,
especially Howie.
We need a new villain for Bad Sisters.
How do you replace JP?
Well, how do you replace JP?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing for your 40th, Gary?
Do you know, I didn't want to do anything, but Gemma was insisting that we did. So, we're just I put it out into the universe. Gonna go down to Dalkey on Saturday for a few drinks, and see what happens. I'm pretty sure we probably won't last 2.5 hours in Dalkey with some of the characters that will be there, but we'll wing it. We'll be fucked out of Finnegan's, then we go into the Coolymore, and we'll probably end up in McKenniston area, I'd say.
Brilliant. Paul, 2023, are you, obviously, some stuff you may not be allowed to tell us, but have you got anything that you can...
Well, I'm not working on a big Roddy Collins kind style book. I have a Ross book to have finished by the end of January, so I'm working on that. Yeah, but beyond that, I don't know. There's I've got a few television projects I'm working on. I'm still working on the Ballybrack thing, which I'm hoping. I finished episode 2, so I'm hoping to finish the rest of the series next year. You know,
lovely.
And then I'm hopefully working on Bad Sisters, and then there's another show I'm working on as well. So I think there'll be a lot of TV. I'm going to try and take a bit more time off next year. I took 3 months off this summer, and I just needed it. I was wrecked. I was absolutely knackered, and I hadn't taken 3 months off since I was at school. Like that's the last time I had any kind of time off, like any significant length of time. You try and do it again this year. I have this 50th birthday present to myself. I'm 52 in January, but I still haven't used my 50th birthday present. But I'm going to the Falkland Islands.
Brilliant.
On my own, like, you know, because I'm just obsessed with the Falklands War, which happened when I was 11, and I was just mad about it at the time. My dad used to buy the Daily Mirror, and I'd be reading all about the battles and the planes and everything, you know.
Was the Mirror that got you? Was that the Mirror? Was that
Gotcha? Was when they blew up the Belgrano?
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a kind of nerd about the Falklands War. Like I've read loads of books about it and everything, and I've read British soldier accounts. I've read Argentine soldier accounts. I'm mad about it, but I got this book of maps. It's the battle maps for the Falklands, right? And they fold out, right? So it's the battle from Mount Longdon, and it's all the positions on the mountain and all that kind of thing, right? And I said to Mary, we'll go to the Falklands, like we get a couple of pairs of wellies, and we'll trod those hills, and like we'll see how 50 paras managed to take Mount Longdon from like 500 Argentine soldiers who were dug in, like, you know, amazing story. And Mary's just looking at me blankly, and I'm just realizing, Jesus, I think I'm going on this one on my own. Mary not only said I could go, she's kind of insisting that I go, you know.
How long will that trip be, Paul?
Well, I think it's a week. I mean, there's not a huge amount to do there. I'd just be there. I mean, it's like going to Achill. It's like Achill Island or something. It's really remote. There's nothing there.
How do you get there?
The the easiest way really is to fly to Santiago, and you go direct from Santiago. There's no flights direct from Argentina. It's cut off from Argentina, but there's only one flight in a week and one flight out on a Saturday. This plane arrives from Santiago, lets a load of people off, loads of people get on, and it goes back to Santiago. So that's the only way on and off the island. You can sail there, but I think it takes like 16 hours from the south of Argentina to get there.
Oh, fuck.
So it's quite far out.
And you're insisting on this, are you?
I would just love to go. It's my midlife crisis. It's a lot. Listen, lads, it's a lot cleaner and a lot healthier than me. Starting to take cocaine or growing a ponytail or driving around a Ferrari or fancying young ones. Like it's like
don't rule the ponytail out. Let it grow out.
Let it grow out. But yeah, that'll be me. Like, I'll be there with me binoculars and I'll have a big bag of books. I'd probably be arrested as a spy when I arrive with all the maps. They'd probably think this fella's planning another fucking invasion.
Oh, come here. I only realised last night, Off the Ball is 20 years old this year. And it'll be 10 years since the second captain's resigned. Remember that?
Yeah. Is it 10 years next year, 2003?
It'll be 10 years in March since the lads resigned from Off the Ball.
My God.
Remember the day they resigned? Like,
I do. Only Ger was left.
Yeah.
Ger was left holding the fort himself. I mean, those lads, I'm fans of, I don't think you have to be Blur or Oasis or, Beatles or the Stones. I think you can love them both. And I just what those lads have done in terms of changing the way we talk about sport in Ireland. It used to be really boring. Listening to two people on the radio in Ireland talking about sport was like listening to somebody read the stock prices. It was just fucking boring, just really, really boring, And them lads came in, the likes of Ger and Owen McDevitt and Ken Early, and like you just sit and listen to them constantly, like for hours and hours. My auntie Angela, she's dead now. She lived in Blackrock. She was about 77. She had absolutely no interest in sport, no knowledge of sport at all. She was obsessed with Ken Early. She used to put the show on. She put it on just to listen to Ken Early. She said, "Just love him. I absolutely love him." Because then he'd always go into he'd be chatting about football and then he'd go off on some tangent about Russian literature or something
Yeah.
I just love that about him. Like he's a star. Like Ken is a superstar.
Absolutely is. Absolutely.
He blocked me on Twitter, Mero. Remember you and Danny were in Vegas?
Yeah.
And I kept asking why he was going around in sandals. And he blocked me.
Danny has Gary has been blocked by some of the big names on Twitter, right?
Big names.
Yeah. So I was delighted to get Neil Richmond over the line.
He's blocked 6,000 people according to himself.
Jason McAteer blocked me there a few weeks ago.
You had a row.
What did you do on Trigger?
He came out and gave out about Brian Kerr.
Right.
No, Lad Bible put up something. What Englishman isn't in the squad that you'd love to see in the squad for the World Cup, and I quote tweeted it and said Jason McAteer, but I didn't actually tag him, so somebody must have sent it to him, and he wrote back.
He's probably searched his own name.
He wrote back Irish actually, and I went to write something back, but then I was black.
I think you're maligned and misunderstood, Gary. I think.
Yeah. Varadkar won't block me, the fucking coward, but I'll get him eventually.
Paul, sorry, I just wanted to ask, why do you think Ger didn't leave with the lads?
I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of what went on, but
they just wanted that extra hour, didn't they, off your buddy George Hook?
No.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I can't really remember now, but I think that's what it was about. I think they wanted half an hour of George.
Yeah, the Hook's show went from 4 to 7, and they wanted from 6:30 to 10 or something like that.
Mero, yeah. I'm going to be honest with you, Mero. Your questions are being fucking shit tonight. I don't know what you're at. I don't know what you're doing. You're being barbed about everything. You're looking for gossip.
Feels like a plant, doesn't he? He feels to me like the plant for Shamrock Rovers and for the second captain's lads. It's like you page to come here and ask these questions.
You haven't even asked the question, Murray. Your attitude's changed since you lost me and Wade.
Listen here, right? I've asked plenty of questions tonight, and I've been in direct conversation. And you're coming in here with your attitude, with your barbed comments. We'll be
I thought
having
he was
words.
ill prepared, Danny, as well. I
After.
did think he was ill prepared. I felt.
Paul, his annual review every time I tell him that. Every time. You'd be
Lads,
getting
have you
marked
been
down
watching the
again.
World Cup before we go? Have you been watching the World Cup?
I watched a lot
lovely.
more of it than I thought I would. At the start of it, I
Lovely.
was trying to take the moral high ground. But to be honest with you, football at 10 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't turn down.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
You
so
haven't watched any of it, Paul, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, right.
Fair play.
Yeah, right, Paul.
No, listen, I tell you the truth, right? I can be a bit of a grandiose fucker, right? So I did say at the start of the tournament, I'm not going to watch a fucking match, right? And then I was kind of thinking, shit, why did I do that? But once you've done it, you've said it, right? So now you have to suffer, right? Like it's like when you say to your ma, no, I don't want any dinner, and then you find out it's a fry up or something, and then you're sitting there watching everybody eat the fry. You just have to sit, you just have to say there'll be other fries. But I didn't watch any matches, and it was kind of a little bit easy for me. So it was a little bit of a cheat because most of the matches were on during the working day, and I was either in the recording studio doing the audiobooks, recording audiobooks, or I was working like with deadlines. So it was easy to say, well, I can't switch on the telly because I have to get this piece finished for the book, and so I was kind of finishing at 6 o'clock every day. I could have watched the evening match, but a lot of the evening matches were a bit, didn't really grab me,
Yeah.
So I didn't watch it, honestly, hand on my heart, right? Hand on my heart. I did not sit down and watch a match. But I did follow the scores, and I did stick on the news to see the goals and stuff like that. But I mean,
I'd say he was doing bets on the XG market and everything. Don't fucking mind. He was texting me looking for prizes now. Don't fucking mind him.
That XG has now worked its way into the FIFA football game.
Go away.
It's rarely on the PlayStation. Like, yeah.
Jeez.
It shows if you take a shot or you score or whatever, and the replay comes up, it does a freeze frame just as the player is striking the ball, and it gives you the XG for normally shooting from this range. And I fuck off. I'm not interested.
Tell me all these new stats, right? Assists and XGs and all that kind of. What the new one is receptions.
Yes,
receptions, right? Presumably these are all designed to give people new things to bet on, are they?
Yeah, I was just about to say it's all to stimulate the gambling market.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jesus. I find it really dull though. Like, I find it when some nerd comes on and starts talking about somebody's receptions.
And people looking for a price and Mbappe to have 2 or more attempts on target in the first half. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ever tempted, Gary, to just say fuck off? No, I'm not taking that bet.
Well, anyone who's ever interacted with me or would know that. Like, I mean, I put time limits on people in shops and everything.
What do you mean?
It's I was working in Mackle here today, actually, and there's a fella I know from Wicklow Town. I won't name him because we could be liable, but I like him. Like, he's a lovely fella, but the minute I see him, here we fucking go, because he gives you a full report on everything he's doing, and he has our roulette system cracked, but he never wins any money on it. So the first thing out of him today was number 4 is going to come out in the next draw, and I guarantee you 33 comes out after that, which of course doesn't happen. And I said, I don't give a oh shit, I just named him. You can bleep that out, Danny.
Yeah.
Nobody in here gives a fuck what you're gambling on. I particularly don't give a fuck what you're gambling on. And I said, anyway, with COVID, you have to limit your time to shop to 40 minutes. So enjoy yourself for 40 minutes and then you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, can I come back? How long do I have to take before I can come back? I said 3 hours.
How would you be in there for 40 minutes?
There's shops that open the door at 10. There's lads there for 10, 11 hours.
Stop.
Yeah, it's a fucking cesspit. Absolutely.
Right, lads.
Danny wants to ruin our night by saying it's over.
Well, we're just going to press stop and you can continue chatting after. So long as your attitude and your questions improve. That's the main thing. Lads, the Christmas special is something I look forward to every year. And I know there was some touchiness within the group in recent months because, you know, there was allegations that you weren't being asked on. Some people were appearing on other podcasts and telling us how great they were.
You Johnnies.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. You know,
I was on Crime World with Nicola Talent.
From my side, I just want to say there's no hard feelings. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Gary and I aren't ones to bear a grudge either, but we are kind of developing our own podcast ideas anyway, independent of you guys. So
no, I look forward to it, and I wish you well.
Available wherever you get your podcasts, lads.
Yeah.
There's a cookery one. There's a fashion one. What else is there, Gary?
Fitness.
The fitness one. You know.
Fitness, yeah. We're also there's a big development of the Avoca River going on at the minute, so we're going to be doing a bit of coverage on that.
Oh, local to be covering local issues. That new cycle lane that's going up there opposite where Sean Bean Motors used to be.
Yeah, and we were involved in there was just before COVID, we were involved in a theatre that was going to be built in the old Ormond Cinema.
That's right. I remember you talking about that previously. Yeah.
But due to the war in Ukraine, the Russian gentleman who we were dealing with, we haven't heard from him since. But he hasn't seen his WhatsApp in 3 years. But let's see what happens.
Will you be going into the true crime world as well, lads?
Depends what happens with Dowdle and Ger.
Fair.
Fascinating, that trial, isn't it?
It's fascinating.
Fucking brilliant.
Listen to it every night. It's just bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
Save that for after, lads.
I just think that I was listening to Dowdle or reading the Dowdle's quotes today on the stand. I was just thinking, this needs to be televised. This trial needs to be televised. Oh, Humphrey's come in, lads. Hello.
Good man, Humphrey.
You can't lift them up, can you?
No, hang on. I'll lift you down. Hang on. Hello.
Doesn't matter how many weights he's lifting, lads. Look at him.
Humphrey, good man.
Hi, Humphrey. Did you just come
still
in for
get
a his
foot bath at night time, Paul?
He does, yeah, because he gets he's terrible welts on the inside of his paw. As Basset hounds get older, their paws turn outwards to kind of carry the extra weight, so they get kind of corns on their pads. So it's we give them a foot bath with this special solution that just sort of softens them every night, you know. So it helps ease the suffering from, you know.
He just came into you for a pet there, did he, Paul?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he came in for a pet, and he's he start pestering me for a bit of food now. You know, I feed him anytime he moans. I feed him, and I've ruined him, like, you know. But I can't resist him. The worst dog owner in the world.
Right, this the fourth time I'm going to try end the podcast, lads. So just work with me, really.
Grumpy wants to go. Come on.
Mero, me and you are going to have strong words now in a minute. I'm telling you. We'll be up to Glenavon Park in the morning.
Did you see his Ewan McKenna impersonation the other night on Twitter?
This is coming off. Actually, listen here. Look, we're going to have a falling out. I mean it. Right, lads, look, Merry Christmas. Thanks very much for everything. Thanks for listening all year long. And look, if anybody would like to tweet the show to tell us what a bollocks Graham Merrigan is, it's at WTS Pod. And I look forward to reading those tweets over Christmas.
Thanks for having us on. It's always a pleasure, you know. Brilliant to see you. Danny, you're looking absolutely fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
He's gained an attitude since he lost all that weight.
Great to see you, Mero, and Gary as well. Like, it's just been brilliant. I love the last couple of hours. It's
hopefully we'll Sunday get to Avoca, Paul.
Yeah, next time, let's do it in Avoca, okay? I'll cook and everything, right?
Well, I won't get me hopes up, but we'll see.
We'll be getting turkey curry from the freezer.
Gary, where can everyone listen to us?
Let me think. Chadwick's in the noggin.
That's true. Yeah, you can't get good internet reception in there, so you can. He's not wrong.
You can listen to us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. We're on Spotify.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
What do you need to search, Gary?
Pardon?
What do you need to search to get us?
WTS Pod
Very good.
We're also available on if you have a smartwatch, you can listen to it on there.
Yeah. This is like watching a primary school teacher prompt the young lad who hasn't got a fucking clue what he's talking about. It's great.
I used to love. Do you remember in that section in Tonight with Vincent Brown where the screen went red?
Yeah.
And you could text #VinB, or you could tweet #VinB, right?
Yeah.
But he'd never call it a hashtag. It was you could text the word #VinB. Like he was ordering a 20s box.
Right, look, we'll leave it there, lads. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. Thanks.
I love
Happy Christmas. Good night and God bless.
Right, lads.